Hey, good evening, everybody. Corey Rennie, the unemployable counselor. And I just wanted to bring up something that I noticed today. In the course of doing some interviews with some of the candidates and talking with more people actually involved with city planning and the community at large, I was thinking a lot about homelessness, and more specifically, I guess, it would be about crime, right? Because crime's subjective. There is what we know that's presented by, the police and all that kind of stuff, and valid, right? Like, I'm not disparaging anything, but I also think that there's like an undercurrent, an underbelly that maybe not everyone is aware of. Because when you think about homelessness, you think of, right, like guys sleeping in alleys and stuff like that, right? And the crime portion with it that comes with it, right? Like, you see people don't want shelters in their neighborhoods and that sort of thing because of that fear. And I got thinking, like, it's not every person who's like that. Any street person, or, not all street people are the same, just like us. They are just like us. That's part of the issue. But I was thinking something today, and I'm going to show you a couple clips from just some of the destruction piece that I think we've been talking about. For example, there's a chain link fence that runs behind the big box stores down in the Cornerstone area. It goes all the way down. I know this because I'll walk that way with my son and things like that. And this is what we saw today, going by and checking it out. And I think this kind of highlights, because it wasn't like this last week. That gate has only been locked for 2 weeks. I know this because, again, every Friday my kid and I walk it. So I want you to check this out, and this is part of what I'm talking about. Check it out. I'm hoping I'm going to be talking to some folks this week about homelessness, and when you hear about property and destruction, these are the types of things they talk about, right? And look, I get it. I've walked this route. It sucks to walk all the way around, but to try to keep the safety, the fact that someone is willing to just rip up the fence and just run through, that's not cool either. And it's stuff like that that creates issues, because not everybody does this, but it's the small group that does that causes these issues. We're right behind Best Buy and that whole stretch. But yeah, just thought I would show you guys what we see. Corey Rennie, the unemployable counselor. Take care, and let's try to solve these things. See what I mean? And then as we had a look, we got, so we decided, okay, let's just drive down and have a look, right? Because the Walmart one doesn't have a gate. It's wide open, right? The one behind there. So as we're driving along, you can see where there is at least 2 different spots. And here's just another example of one right now. Yeah, there's another one. And I get it. It's a long walk. But things like that make it hard to be like, oh, okay, well, we can bring them in and we can do these things, right? We can help them out, we can set them up. And then I can understand why people might be like, not in my neighborhood. But I think it's things like that that just showcase different things. And for a friend of mine would put up fences. And he told me a story about they were repairing a fence and they weren't even done repairing it, and someone was coming up with, and you could hear a snip, and they're cutting a big hole in it. So, what do you do with that sort of stuff, right? Do we just create a walkway and have a guard sitting there and monitoring it like a border, right? And that's just one area, a public area that has cameras around it as well. So, what could we do to mitigate that situation? Because I'm a firm believer in cameras, and someone told me that cameras only as good as the person watching it. And I think that's maybe the key. Maybe we need to have someone watch those cameras. But I'm thinking that it's little things like that that turn into big things. It's like, oh my gosh, that's just one chain link fence on some, stretch of barely traveled road. But yet they're still doing that because they're looking for a way. So they're just going to cut a hole in a fence to go through. Then, you start thinking when they go to the store, what happens there? And then it starts impacting your view of everybody. that's in that situation, and not everybody is like that. Okay. I don't know if there's a purpose to this, but it's kind of disheartening to see different viewpoints on that are very, very negative. I'm a firm believer no one as a child says, when I grow up, I want to be homeless, or I want to sell my body. I want to become addicted to crystal meth and end up sleeping under a bridge. That sounds like a cool deal, right? No, that's not an option, right? I just feel like I'm bringing this up too, in part, I'm gonna be talking to a leader in working with the homeless this week, and I'll tell you more about that after Wednesday. But I do think that as a community, we need to consider options here, viable options, right? It's not about sending people out to an island, right? Just like, okay, here you are. Do we create an area of town that is just specifically like a red light district? Do we, how do we mitigate and how do we facilitate, more importantly, those struggles? Because it comes to addiction, it comes to mental health, housing, right? Even the system itself isn't really set up to make a positive impact sometimes, right? Bare minimum sometimes promotes someone to do the bare minimum. And then we get more resentments, we get more anger because people are in situations that maybe they can't get out of. And when they want help, they can't get it, or there's so many hoops and red tape for them to go through that it's impossible. And I'm not even talking about the education level of some of these individuals as well. If you're dealing with people that have the capacity of a child, they're not going to make proper decisions, and they're not going to think about anything except the instant gratification and what is right now, as opposed to, okay, if I do this now, it's going to impact this. And I think that's where I think a lot of times we miss the care part in like healthcare, for example, or for addictions and mental health care. Like I think that it's tough to work within a system that, too, a lot of times it's not for the lack of will to want to make things better. Instead, it's more of a, we're putting a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid because we have no other alternatives. We can't change everything from the bottom level up. So we have to just make whatever little changes we can make at that level at that time, without actually looking at the whole structure and being like, okay, we need to fortify this foundation for this to actually be able to hold. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, listen, I'm Corey Rennie, the unemployable counselor. This is just a couple thoughts I had tonight. And I really hope that, especially with the weather being cold, like, look, man, no one likes to be approached by individuals and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, have a little compassion. Okay. If people are being assholes, then, right, treat them accordingly. But not everybody is out for vengeance and that sort of thing. Okay. Some people are just looking for a cup of coffee and a place to sleep, right? All right. It's Corey Rennie, unemployable counselor. Put your comments below. I think this is such a complex and multifaceted issue. There is no right answer to this, right? If there was one, this would have been solved a long time ago. But I do think it's a community initiative, right? And I mean, like, this is something I think as a community we need to approach and look at it, right? Because I find that a lot of things, what if it was your kid out there with that, right? We have supports for the parents in those situations. And sometimes there's other factors at play that nobody's aware of, okay? So again, unemployable counselor, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, okay? Take care, and we'll talk soon.